Why am I seeing so many casual mentions of Nazis and Nazi symbology? I've been hearing since Trump was elected that anti-Semitism was on the rise. But I didn't really see it too much myself outside of the occasional terrible news story. Now, however, I'm seeing casual mentions of Nazis and genocide, and people highlighting swastikas in pictures with no connection to history. And when people call any of this out in the comments, they're getting roasted and downvoted. What's going on? Is this particular to Reddit, Twitter, or a more broad representation of people not understanding the horrors and reality of Nazi Germany? It's a relief to see so many people noticing the same, and also being disturbed by it. And to be completely clear, while this kind of hate is associated with the far right, the current surge seems to be coming in equal or greater part from the far left, and from younger people. I don't think they often even understand what they're propagating or why it's so harmful. There's been a large uptick of this kind of thing recently. I would say due to mostly the Gaza conflict, as well as the Ukraine war. There's more than a few countries with active, dedicated online misinformation campaigns. Something I heard the other day during a podcast that interviewed a person that runs an organization that tracks hate groups. What it boils down to is the algorithms that helped keep this shit in check have been tweaked to allow for the platforms to monetize more viral content. Apparently, once Musk relaxed the controls that prevented this stuff, all the other big guns followed suit. You also have much larger platforms that do not censor at all. So all of these hateful people are able to coordinate for their causes and are doing so very effectively, apparently. There isn't a single answer. It's a complex topic with many interlocking parts. But one thing that does stand out is a 2020 book by Professor Thomas Rid called Active Measures: The Secret History of Disinformation and Political Warfare. In one very small part of the book, Rid uses declassified documents to show how the Soviets funded neo-Nazis and helped spread anti-Semitism in the 1960s as a way to attack democracy in Europe. I wouldn't be surprised if they were doing the same thing in the US today. I think it's just a factor of time. Almost all of the people alive during World War II are dead. Many of the people who first heard the stories, baby boomers, are dying. We are starting to be 4 generations removed from the conflict and are either learning this as stories of stories or in history class, both of which can be boring and fail to hold our attention. We know the numbers and the statistics, but we don't realize the story or the impact. Nazis were marching in Wisconsin today. Nazis are all over the place. That's why people are talking about them. There's been a serious uptick of global anti-Semitic content. Did it start as criticism of Israel and people don't know how to stop? Were the Nazis just waiting for the moment to shine again? I have no idea. Because humans forget every 80 years or so. We're a horrible species. Nazi sympathizing has been going on for a while. Even before Trump. Most people, like you, haven't been paying enough attention to notice it, which means there hasn't been a lot of pushback against it. And so it's been escalating. This isn't people failing to understand the horrors and reality of Nazi Germany. This is people who actively want that kind of world to come back. We're in a very dangerous time right now. The US and many other countries have been slipping towards fascism for years. I've never been able to understand antisemitism. Why pick on Jews when they are just ordinary people? What can be the reason people make all this effort just to hurt Jews? Why is it worth the work? Who gains from it? Behind every news story you do hear about is 10 that you don't hear about. Behind that is several hundred people online promoting racism and anti-Semitism who recruit new PPL into it. It's like rot inside your house. By the time you notice it in the ceiling, it's already spread everywhere. There is certainly a massive upswing in anti-Semitism, but it's not just coming from Nazi groups. Most people have never actually met a Jewish person. There simply aren't very many of us. People lose that context if they're not consistently getting outside reminders. Since Trump was elected in 2016, American white power groups have felt emboldened. They've been holding public rallies more, and hate crimes have gone up. You've just not been paying attention to national news. It's mostly selective outrage. Kind of like how you didn't hear about kids in cages under Obama. Heard it non-stop under Trump, and then went back to not hearing about it under Biden. The issue never went away. OT actually got worse under Biden. It's just that they were selective in what they covered and how. Outrage or coverage from social media and mainstream media is not a good indication of how often an issue is accrually occurring. Double standards from those in power tend to make finding TGE objective truth more difficult. I'm a Jew and I am scared. This is something that terrifies the wits out of me. I wonder if they knew of anyone, as I did, who survived the tortures of a concentration camp. If they did, I suspect that would put a different slant on their casual feelings about it. Being that they seem to find it okay, I have to think they never knew someone with first-hand experience. To this day, I am surprised that my friend's father survived the physical torture he went through. Anti-Semitism is on the rise on both extreme sides of the aisle, with far-right groups wearing swastikas and far-left groups attacking Jews on the subways of New York currently. Hate in general is on the rise. And there's so many platforms that push it because it gets lots of views and reaction. Because Israel is at war and tons of people hate Jews. Along with a rise in anti-Semitism, there has been a rise in hate speech and attacks against Muslims as well. It's a very dangerous and hateful double-edged sword. Elon Musk is signal boosting and agreeing with Nazis on Twitter regarding the Jewish question. He also unbanned them. That's one part of the answer to your question. Don't buy the hype. These people wear masks and hide online. They are not a majority. Propaganda is being allowed all over the social media. Propaganda is extremely dangerous. In a world where the younger generation are empathizing with bin Laden and Jew hatred has been normalized beyond fringe groups, it isn't a surprise to see Nazi symbology being slapped onto just about everything. It's also what happens when you broaden the term to apply to anyone that disagrees with you, which has been commonplace for a long while now. It's the Israel-Palestine conflict. Considering everyone is accusing everyone else of being a bossy, that's hardly surprising. Russia calls Ukraine Nazi. Ukraine calls Russia fascist. The Israel-Palestine conflict always has idiots bring up Hitler. And American politics is polarized and full of random accusations. It's called propaganda. Because that's how fascism starts. Hitler was elected once, removed from power and came back. Over that time all the things we see today were happening. There were Germans in the 30s that ignored it thinking that it would never get to be as bad as it did. We are on a path to becoming a white nationalist country ruled by a dictator. It's going to take more than hand-wringing in the next election cycle to prevent this. Frankly, I don't think Americans are up for it. Then look around the world. My guess is the race is on. WWII or climate change effects. Which one is going to ruin your life first? Because these cunts are coming out of the basement. You know, where they have their Nazi flag and have meetings with their cunt friends. Because the right has openly shared their support and affection for Nazis, Nazi fascism, and Nazi symbols.